All right, Tom, I'm just going to give it to you straight. There's no sugarcoating it. Is one of the winningest coaches of all time and the greatest coach of our generation and maybe the generation before it and maybe the generation after this one going to be left without a job? Is Bill Belichick not going to be a head coach this fall?
Barring a surprise, right now, there is not a spot for Bill Belichick in the NFL in 2024. He was a serious candidate with the Falcons. He had the initial meeting with Arthur Blank. Then he went into the facility, went through the same car wash they were doing with all the other candidates, meeting with everybody throughout the football operation. My understanding is Belichick and Blank were continuing to talk. Bill was taking this very seriously, that he was going to be prepared and have the plan if he went to Atlanta. Somewhere along the way in recent days here, as they did the additional second interviews and continued to discuss internally, they decided to go with somebody in Raheem Morris, who, for a variety of different reasons, is very different from Bill Belichick. Chief among them, with Raheem, he has been in the building. He's been a member of the Falcons coaching staff. He was the interim coach several years ago before they decided to go out and hire Arthur Smith instead. With Belichick, there was going to be significant changes to the entirety of how that building operated. And that's not to say that he was going to go in there with a hedge trimmer and saw off all these different people and they're all got to be out of the building. It was more so Bill Belichick knows what, in his mind, a championship culture looks like. He knows how to put a program in place. What the Falcons and other teams were evaluating with Bill Belichick is, are we going to make all these types of changes, redo how everything in our building has operated from a football standpoint for a long, long time for a 72-year-old coach who, yes, Rich, he is quite possibly the greatest we've ever seen, certainly the guy who's got more rings than anybody else. The Falcons ultimately came to the conclusion they were going to go with somebody who was younger, who had a different outlook, and who was going to keep a lot of the existing infrastructure in place. Time will tell on whether or not the Falcons made the right decision. But if you look around the rest of the NFL, everyone at this point, Rich, barring a surprise, has rendered the same decision, which is no matter how many games Bill Belichick has won, he's not going to be our head coach in 2024.
Wow. So was it the power structure within the building? Everyone's been talking about Rich McKay, the CEO of the Falcons, and how the setup there was something that might prove unworkable. What's your reporting there and where it currently stands with Morris now in the building?
I would say the Rich McKay angle of this has been vastly overblown. Rich McKay was never, somebody who was a hard line. It's either Rich or it's Bill. Rich isn't going anywhere. I mean, he's very closely tied in with Arthur Blank and the broader businesses that Arthur Blank runs. And Rich McKay is one of the respected individuals in the NFL. He's the chair of the competition committee, football side, business side, everything. Everybody holds Rich McKay in high regard. This was more so about what is the building going to look like moving forward. They are changing the structure. The head coach and general manager now are reporting directly to Arthur Blank, not to Rich McKay. So to the extent that there was this idea, well, Rich McKay is the reason Bill Belichick can't take this job, wasn't really reflected in that from the Falcons end or for Belichick's end. Bill Belichick was very much, again, ready to make things work in Atlanta. There were going to be organizational adjustments. There's no question, because Bill Belichick, going all the way back to the early 90s when he was the head coach in Cleveland, has always had contractually that he is the head of personnel, that he is effectively the general manager. Terry Fontenot could have stayed. Rich McKay could have stayed. There would have just been a different function to how that building ran. And when it boiled right down to it, and they were having those internal discussions, they came to the conclusion that they were not going to go that direction. And so right now, Bill Belichick is a head coach without a home, and quite possibly, Rich, as much as people may want to have a funeral right now for Bill Belichick's coaching career, everything that I have understood to this point is taking a year off and coming back in 2025 to continue pursuing those records and try to get this thing going someplace else is very much still potentially in the cards for Belichick.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.